I don't know how the Third World War will be fought, but the Fourth World War will be fought with sticks and stones. The ones, the children of the visitors who exist in every galaxy, as they would call it, on every planet, in every millennia. The visitors who exist where every sun would exist. The ones, the children of those visitors who have endured millennia of slavery, marginalization, exploitation, the most deleterious treatment ever experienced by any living species. Yet being so unaware of the power that exists within them. That power that rivals the energy of 1,000 suns. Yet, the others and the elements who are not children of the visitors or children of the universe are aware of that power that the ones have. They're aware their only survival is to harness, exploit, control, contain, and own the power of the ones. That power within the ones rivals any of the modern day weapons of war that the others or the elements could ever conceive of. Their weapons, their atomic energies, pale in comparison to the energy that exists within the ones. I got up early this morning, checked the watch, thought about working out. Went and got a little something to drink from the refrigerator. Said to myself, let me go ahead and drink some of this vegetable juice, maybe a little water. Made some tea first thing in the morning. Saw an apple, decided I'll go ahead and, take a couple of bites, get ready for the day. Decided to peruse the social apparatus where others explain their feelings, their ongoings in their day-to-day, even some entertainment. Some folks might call it media, social or otherwise. And as usual, being a child of the ones and relating to other children who are the ones. In their messages, communicating with one another on these platforms, messages of either entertainment, messages of competing against one another, even if it's just for bravado's sake, or quite often, messages as if they're trying to find some oasis of validation, an oasis of hope, an oasis of some kind of peace, messages explaining the torment, either what they're going through presently or what they've been through in the past and what they fear, the torment of the future, that is doled out upon all of us by either the others, the elements, or any of their ilk. As I'm perusing, watching and saying, well, how do our folks feel? And seeing how they explain and how they talk to one another and how they lament the position in their lives that they live right now due to the relationship or the unfortunate relationship with the others or the elements or their ilk. I have a sense of foreboding, but a sense of a comfortable validation that the ones, due to that power that exists within them, is more powerful than 1,000, the energy is more powerful than 1,000 of the weapons of war that the elements or the others could ever create. That comfortable validation tells me the ones, even deep in the recesses of their minds, no matter how much cognitive dissonance they may want to hide from it, in the recesses of their minds, they know still yet that they're not unlike any other being on this planet. So as I start my day, that sense of foreboding, which was soon realized, came in a very insidious and a way of warning that even the most skilled practitioner, the most skilled practitioner of logic could never unravel. I saw messages on those platforms that they called social media back in the day. I saw different types of messages. As I saw the ones communicating amongst each other, they were not the same messages that lamented about exploitation, that lamented about the struggles of the day-to-day living within a so-called society that was owned and controlled by others, that had marginalized them, their ancestors, and their future. It was something of an uncomfortable confusion. I saw messages, whereas before, the lamentation, for lack of a better term, were almost message of a cathartic type of, a catharsis of final validation by the others and by the elements. Messages of, they're so nice to us. Why are they start being nice? As if someone flipped a switch and reversed the annals of time 500, 600, 700 years ago, as if those years, those centuries were erased. Messages of, I can't believe that we're accepted. Messages of, why are they so nice? Why are they so understanding and so apologetic? Why are they so empathetic to the struggles of the ones? Why are the elements and the others starting to empathize and sympathize with the struggles of the ones? Almost if, as the time years passed, when there was a global sickness, others were empathizing and sympathizing, causing riots, as if they were in solidarity with the ones. But this time it was more frightening. This time, when I saw the messages of they're being so accepting. The entities that were beating us over our heads and exploiting. Matter of fact, they're giving us substance, resource, subsidies. They're even giving us a form of reparations. They're starting to see that their evil ways will finally come around and we could all live in this homogeneous society of good, of brotherhood, of a oneness. I saw messages from even the most ardent nationalistic fervor saying, maybe this time is different. Maybe we could all go to that mountaintop and live as the brotherhood of man. But the messages of, why are they being so nice? Those messages cloaked yours truly in a blanket of trepidation, in a blanket of confusion, which will be realized into a horror that the ones or the visitors could never even conceive in their wildest nightmares. Every platform, no matter what the platform was, photo, video, audio, the ones in a catharsis, they said to themselves, finally, we won't be exploited as the others in the elements. They're realizing that wicked doesn't win. They're so nice to us. They're giving things to us. We're communicating as if we're one. There's no more exploitation, no more marginalization. Something was definitely awry. I was walking down the street. Back in the day, they used to call them cops. This really had me kind of a sense of a kind of a wariness of this. Something's not right. Something's definitely, there's something that doesn't connect. I saw these cops. They were being so nice to one they would have considered a suspect. Whereas before the sense of foreboding I have, they would have had him on the ground, marginalized, exploited, or maybe even harmed. But that was not the case this time. They were being so nice. He was there, sitting with these modern-day Roman soldiers almost in a sense of joyous nature, almost as if they were family, sitting, laughing, entertaining one another, as if 700 years had never existed before. The 700 years of exploitation, marginalization, enslavement never existed. They were being so nice I went walking into one of the local stores and I saw one of our future of the ones. As I was walking in, our future was a little child. Couldn't have been over the age of 5, 6. Was walking with a mother and a father. And I looked at the family, nodded to the father, smiled. He nodded back as if he finally had that pressure, that relief. That release is we can all live as one. Because he was part of the ones, and he saw within me that I was part of the ones. And I saw as he walked into this store, it was as if the weight of the world was off his shoulders. All the elements and all the others, it wasn't just a sense of acceptance, as if he was being accepted. It was almost a sense as if he was being loved by the elements and the others. As they handed him all the riches or anything he wanted in that store, and they smiled and said, "No worries, this is yours. Think of it as our form of repair. You may call it reparations, but we want to repair the damage that has been done to you." But there was a sense of something that really made me feel very uneasy as the child spoke the most wise words. As the child and the family were walking out, I heard the child say, "Something's not right. They're being so nice. They're being so nice." And like they say from the mouth of babes, the word of wisdom is more thorough and more endless than the entire ancestry of elders of the ones that ever existed in time. The words of wisdom coming from the future, the little ones of the ones. That's endless wisdom. Quote, "Something's not right, Mom. They're being so nice," unquote. Well, yours truly, working within their technical apparatus, their archives, their endless forms of data, it uncovered a possible, if not probable, if not actual reason for, as that child said, they're being so nice. Years ago, must have been probably 10 years now, who knows? It was a long time ago, maybe. They were at war with each other. Deeply at war with each other. But the war never ended. The war never ended. It was a war of conquest. They call it invasions. Either way, it didn't matter. It was a war of conquest. As the others and the elements always fight a war of conquest. But that conquest was not over land. That conquest was not over resource. That conquest was not over ideologies. That conquest was a family civil war, a struggle within each other to obtain the most precious resource that ever existed within time. And that resource was that energy, the energy of 1,000 suns that exist within the ones. Yet the ones, through their relationship with others and elements, have been told, manipulated, and brainwashed into thinking they don't have that power. The power that exists within the ones is a power to go through time, a power to go through space, a power to go even through objects, that might be perceived as physical and impossible. But because of the constant, incessant brainwashing, and in a con man sense of programming, the ones were led to believe that they had no power whatsoever. That energy, more powerful than 1,000 suns, was contained in their own minds from the manipulation of the minds of the others and the elements. It's no wonder they're now starting to be so nice. Well, this war is now reaching a tipping point that the others and the elements have blissfully unaware sojourned into. And the war will rage on and get worse. And the only victor of such conquest of a family squabble between elements and others, the victor will be that who has now exploited and now refined the power within the ones. That power, that energy that exists within the physical apparatus of the ones, the children of the visitors, the first walking species on that planet Earth. Whoever contains that energy will contain the globe and quite possibly the universe. Well, as that war of conquest raged on and on, the words from that child resonated in yours truly's mind. And yours truly became more and more fearful. Something's not right, Mommy. They're being too nice. Well, yours truly uncovered the most probable, if not actual, reason of quote unquote being too nice. Perusing their data, their archives, it seems they've developed the most pure weapon to destroy themselves. But in order for that weapon to function, they needed to make sure that the ones could walk into hell with their eyes open, their hand out, and a smile on their face. As I noticed those I communicated on those platforms who were lamenting the exploitation, who were now in a sense of relief, thinking they're starting to be nice to us. Those yours truly communicated, he could not contact them any further. I wondered, where are they? I used to talk to them on those platforms they might call social media. I don't see them anymore. Where are they? What are they doing? Family members were also AWOL, absent, not available, and not contactable, for lack of a better term. But they're being so nice. I walked down to a building, and it reminded me of those religious zealots. You know, those that have the little bow tie and they ride the little bikes with the little bike helmets, proselytizing everything in sight. And I walked down and saw a building. And again, they were so nice, too nice. But I saw something that was akin to 500 years ago, as I saw many and many unfortunate souls walking almost in an arduous journey, walking into the hells of a slave ship. Yet this was not 500 years ago, this was today. And they weren't arduously walking into these buildings. They were happy, entertained, and that sense of relief walking in because someone is being too nice to them. Well, I saw these others and these elements welcoming their new guest. The guest that was no different than the unfortunate guests that were in slave ships. This time, quote unquote, it was different. It wasn't the harrowing journey. This time, the ones were willingly walking into the cauldron of the end of their existence, into these buildings. And I walked around. I even saw some of those I communicated on who were lamenting the exploitation and the marginalization of our people. And I said, why are you here? He said, brother, they're being too nice. They're being real nice to us. Things have changed. I said to him, are you sure things have changed? He says, look what I got from them. Finally, they're being nice. Finally, we can get our point across. We can validate what we've been telling the world for decades and decades about all the struggles our people have been through, the hell we experienced, and now they see the error of their ways and are ready to correct them. Look what they gave me. Look what, I don't have to worry about being exploited by their Roman soldiers, those things they call cops. I don't have to worry about this bill and paying that bill, or what's going to happen to the children. They're finally coming to the table to understand the error of their ways, and that maybe they could correct those ways, and I can actually live as a human being. I said to myself, brother, this is one of the most wise statements I've ever heard in my life, but it came from a child. Mommy, something's not right, mommy. They're being too nice. And he looked at me and said, look, bruh, whether they're too nice or not, that could be your opinion. I understand how you think. But I have to live for what my family needs. And I'm walking into this building. And I saw scores and scores of the ones walking into buildings, being accepted by the others with a sense of validation. Like I said, it was almost like a cathartic type of, it was a release like beyond all measure, walking into these buildings because finally they're validated. Little did they know, during that war that they fought out in the East, when the others and the elements were fighting each other out in the East, right after that global sickness they might call a pandemic, well, they needed a new source of energy for that new weapon. The weapons, the modern weapons they had, paled in comparison to the energy that could be released within the ones. And they had harnessed, in their conquest and war against each other to annihilate one another, one of them had found a way to harness that power of 1,000 suns within the physical apparatus, within the souls of the ones. One person, one body of the ones has more power than all their weapons of destruction, of mass destruction combined. They said to themselves, can you imagine what we can do with one individual of the ones? With all the years of enslavement, marginalization, of them creating cultures, creating societies, of them who started the world off, with one individual, the energy that exists within them is more powerful, more thorough, and more destructive than all the weapons of mass destruction combined. This is the psyche of the others and the elements. Their measure and their quest for destruction is endless. Now I saw scores of bodies going into these buildings. And I had a sense of foreboding beyond all measure. Yes, this is where their new weapons were coming from. During that war, when that war in the East started, that war over in the Caucasus started, and they were fighting one another after that global pandemic. There were certain incidents where one country would not even let the students, who were the ones, the children of the first continent to inhabit two-legged species, they would not let them leave. They said, oh no, you can't come into this country, you cannot leave. In that sense of validation, what they didn't know was the motive that they could not leave. It wasn't due to the fact that they were of a different hue, a different ethnicity. The reason was as they figured they constructed and they figured the enigma of a puzzle of the world's most destructive weapon. And you can't leave. You cannot let your enemy have those resources. That'd be like giving the keys of the kingdom to your enemy. Not letting them leave certain countries was not to make the ones fight their wars as much as it was to make the ones be the foundation of their new weaponry. Yours truly snuck into one of their facilities. To say it was something of a measure of technology beyond anything any species on this planet could conceive is an understatement. I saw the blue glow of a light, and it was the purest blue and the purest light. And yours truly could barely see. But that light was unmistakable. It was a light that you could hear. It was a light that you could taste, touch, see, smell. It was a light that all senses could actually conceive and know what that was. The blind could see that light. The deaf could hear it. You could almost touch it. And that light was emanating almost it was contained within like a crystal, almost like a glass substance. That light, as I finally was realized, that light was one of us. That was the energy for their weapons. And that was just one of the ones. They have scores going into these buildings. They're harnessing that energy. Others may call it a soul. The others in the elements call it gold. To them, it's their religion. As that soul, as that crystallized light, that light that's brighter and more crystallized than 1,000 suns, is the most powerful substance on the universe. And it only exists within the ones, the children of the visitors. As I walked around that facility, trying not to be revealed, the words kept emanating. Something's not right, mommy. They're being too nice. I knew something was definitely on the horizon. Not just the destruction of the ones, but the destruction of the planet overall. And most likely, the destruction of the universe. Because if one of the children of the visitors, the ones, has that kind of power, what do you think millions can do to a universe? They were using that energy, that light that the blind could see and the deaf could hear. They were using that as the source, as the energy for their weapon of destruction, of conquest. I knew I had to warn us. At that point, I knew right then and there, this was a war beyond all wars for survival of the ones. I had to ask myself, it's no wonder that the others in the elements, they follow our music, they follow our language. It's almost as if this was a setup that was started millennia ago, only to get to this conclusion of how to make the ones distance themselves from who they are, letting them know that that power within them is nothing, and they're very powerless. So therefore, the conclusion would be for others to exploit that power, for others to be able to use the most powerful substance in the universe, and that's that energy that only exists within the ones. It's almost as if this was a plan that had been planned since the inception of the others and the elements ever existed on that planet they call Earth. I knew something was wrong. So now, the warnings have to be disseminated to the ones. Yet the ones will never listen. Because right now they're being validated. Why? Something's not right, mommy. They're being too nice. From one day before, where it was total depression in the lives of the ones, to flipping on a switch the next day, and there was a sense of relief. More relief than any entity could ever experience. And now there's a relief of oneness, of validation, of acceptance. They're being too nice. But what was really scary is I was trying to hide in these facilities. Now that it was revealed, the reason why we could not leave certain countries was because they needed to make sure there was a certain amount of us in their care or in their confines, because now it's a rush to harness these weapons. Even during that war of the Europeans, one of their stalwart countries tried to deport many of the ones, until scientists, economists, industrialists, and financiers said, you cannot deport them. Don't send them back to that continent that they come from, that 12 million square miles that the ones exist in from the inception of time. You cannot send them back, because we lose them. Our competitor, who is not letting them leave their countries, will develop that weapon that we need to conquer. So what do? They say, we're going to go ahead and make sure they can't get on that plane and leave, because we need that blue light, that energy that the blind can see and the deaf could hear, that light, before our competitors develop that weapon. I was able to sneak out toward the exits in their facility. But this is what really it almost damaged my sense of being. I was in there for a few hours, and I finally figured out, yeah, this is why they needed the ones. And as I saw, there was a blue light from another vial, another crystal, another glass crystal, and it seemed very familiar to yours truly. It was very familiar. And as I looked, I almost had a sense that I could feel that light, almost like there was a oneness between me and that light that was emanating. Again, the light that the blind could see, the deaf could hear, and those that are living can feel. And that light, that sense of that familiarity, I guess you could call it, that sense of familiarness, I said, I could feel what that light was telling me. And as I felt that light, almost in a trance-like state, that light put in my mind the image of my friend who used to lament all the racism and the damage, what had happened to us. And that light was actually within my own soul saying, help me, help me. That light, I don't need to tell you who it was, because I heard his voice saying I have to look out for my family. Maybe this time it's different. I remember what he was like when we comment, subscribe to each other's channels, talk to one another on the phone. Again, lamenting all the exploitation that the others and the elements have done to us. But that meant nothing anymore, because all I heard when I felt that light, as I felt, I'll never be able to communicate with that friend again, because now I know his use. I had to leave that blue light. But that wasn't enough for the damage that I knew was coming for the ones was even more horrendous. When as I was leaving, I saw a little child, almost like you would see a child that doesn't want to go to the dentist. And this child was screaming. The little child could have been over 5, 6 years old. Was screaming, I don't want to, mommy. I don't want to. And the father was dragging that child. You have to do this. As I was going and I snuck out, I looked into to the side and I saw scores of us going in, but that child was screaming and kicking for its own dear life. No, they're being too nice. No, screaming, clawing, fighting for the last breath, as its parents were saying, no, you have to do this. My mind went back to that store that I walked in. And I looked, and that familiar sense, as that child looked at me like, I know you. I've seen you before. Help me. Help me. They're being too nice. I knew I was powerless to do anything, but I had bigger goals to warn a race. As I made as much room and put as much distance as I could between myself and that facility, I looked back as the child was reaching, almost trying to reach for anything that could for its life preserver, to make sure, any life preserver, to make sure that child could never go into that building, as that child was being carried by his mother and his father. I saw a little arm reach, holding onto a door to make sure that door would never close. Then I saw finger by finger slip, almost like it's holding onto the last part of a ledge, trying not to fall. And when I saw the last finger slip of a child trying not to get in, to drag in that building, the door closed. Something's not right, mommy. They're being too nice.